say some of the most significant changes that have affected me with education as it is today would have to be having students at home and students here in the classroom. It's been a big change for us to be able how to control the students that are just in the classroom and teach to them like a normal setting, because that's what parents want. That's what we want as teachers.
I would say one of the most significant changes that really affected me in this classroom is that for the last several years, we've done a lot of group work in my class. We've done group projects, a lot of collaborative learning stuff, and we really can't do a lot of that anymore. So trying to redesign the way that I was doing my instruction in a way that didn't completely lose that that aspect of collaboration, but also didn't put anybody at greater risk by putting them closer together and all of that. That's been a big challenge.
Our students and our staff and our community here at Comanche are overcomers. They are willing to make whatever changes are necessary so that kids have the opportunity to engage in face-to-face instruction and participate in activities. A lot of the regulations and changes are not well liked by everybody, but everybody's willing to step up and do what it takes to keep kids in school.
A challenge that we faced last year when we went virtual, we found that we were not organized enough in our Google Classroom for the students to be able to find the assignments and the announcements without us telling them where to go. And so the way we solved that this year is in setting up our Google Classrooms, we decided together how to organize it. And we organized by the week. We created topics for each week, and we put the assignments for the week under that topic. We color-coded the days of the week. So we'll put an emoji, a heart. We use just different colors. Red, for example, is Monday. So we'll use that emoji on all of the assignments for Monday. And then Tuesday will be a different color. So the students have learned really fast how to find the assignments. One thing I've found, if I don't want them to complete it before a certain time of the day, I have to schedule it to come active at that time, because they know now when they get here in the morning to check Google Classroom. So if you want them to complete it at a certain time, for example, I'm in Miss Houston's room at 10 a.m. If I don't want them to complete the assignment before I teach the lesson and I'm in there, I have to schedule it for 10 a.m. or they will complete it. So we are very organized in our Google Classroom. We keep the materials at the top of the stream of the classwork, and so we do not put them in a topic.
Also take care of those who are at home that might be struggling and not understanding, whether it be the mathematical lesson, the geometric lesson, whatever it might be, and then also grasp what I'm trying to get them to accomplish on a worksheet that's digital. So mathematically, we've had a lot of struggles in that area.
The challenge is getting the kids fed, and with all the current conditions and everything that we've had, it's a little different now. Trying to still maintain all the guidelines and everything that we have to abide by. Getting the virtual meals out to the kids, they still need to eat and everything, and we still want them to eat and have good meals and all. And then, you know, sometimes, unfortunately, we do have to quarantine, and we still have to prepare those meals and get those out to them and everything. And starting new programs, you know, just trying to find different ways to get the kids to eating more at the school instead of going out and everything. And we've also started a new program with the weekend meals. So that's another challenge, trying to figure out how many we need and getting those in here on time and being able to keep them in the correct conditions, you know, nice and cool and everything until they're able to take them home. So.
One of the challenges, or the biggest challenge I think I have faced this year, is playing the dual role of principal and teacher. That part, the dual role isn't necessarily the biggest challenge. It's what comes with that. So as principal, I'm responsible, for aiding teachers and all of the students in our building. But the biggest hurdle is monitoring the virtual students for our building and the virtual students for my classroom. So I monitor those virtual students for all of their subjects, making sure the work's getting turned in. If it's not, I'm calling parents. Our teachers are calling parents, but I'm also monitor and hold a Google Meet for my virtual students to make sure they get the instruction that they need, and so that their education is they're being served appropriately for 6th grade math. And so probably the virtual students in a dual role has probably been my biggest challenge. The best way that I have found to overcome that is communicating with my teachers. We communicate daily about who's doing their work, who's checking in, who's being successful, why it's not successful, where you're trying to troubleshoot anything that that's standing in the way. Why isn't this working? And we just pulled together as a team, and I have great teachers that that help me with that. So that's how we overcome that.
Some of our biggest successes is our staff here at Comanche. Our teachers work together, they collaborate, they're willing to help each other with whatever has worked for them. A lot of our teachers have had to quarantine, and they've taught from home, and they're willing to share their experiences. That makes it much easier on those teachers that may have to face this in the future.
I was recently quarantined for 10 days, and I never missed a beat. It was just like I was in the classroom at all times. We set up a webcam, and Ms. Prescott put it in my classroom where I could see my kids, every one of them. They could see me on the screen. I sat at my kitchen bar and had class just like I normally would. Anything that I needed to share with my kids, I would just share my screen at home, and we had class just like normal. Never missed a beat.
You couldn't tell she wasn't here. You could hear her voice across the hall just like she was here.
In the spring, when we were forced to move to distance learning, Comanche is fortunate that we already had the one-to-one technology. Our teachers had already spent a lot of time invested in Google Classroom, so they were ready to just blend in and move this forward. When we came back to school, we had purchased a lot of new instructional programs that are fitted to the virtual format, and our teachers have just stepped right in. I know it is overwhelming. We've purchased quite a few programs, but I just want to make sure that they have all the tools that they can pick and choose what works best for their individual classroom.
One of the most significant changes we've had this year is our lunch period. Our kids, in order to have the students sitting appropriately and not overcrowded in the cafeteria, we decided to divide them into 2 groups. And so one group will go outside for 20 minutes while the other group has lunch, and then we swap and have the other group has lunch while the other group has recess. And the kids absolutely love it. And I know that saying recess for middle school is not always appropriate, but it's recess. They need to go out, they have a brain break, they get some fresh air, they get to run. Some of them need to run and get that energy out, but they absolutely love it. The teachers love it. The duty schedule is different for our teachers. They have duty every week, 3 of them at a time. They love that the cafeteria is not overcrowded. They have, some of them have struggled with the technology, but some of them have jumped right on board. So there's another change that we had. We're teaching to our virtual kids. We put our Google Meet on. We have our kids on our iPads, and they're sitting there at a desk just like everyone else. And so that's been a big change for the teachers, but they have embraced it. It's tough sometimes, but I will tell you that I was kind of resistant at first. It is a lot of work. I was kind of resistant about doing the Google Meet while I was teaching a class, but after I'd done it a couple of times and the kids saw how much the kids loved it, and it really wasn't as much work as I thought it would be, we've really embraced it, and I think everybody's really enjoying it because they're enjoying having those kids in class.
Another one of the biggest challenges that we faced was trying to simultaneously manage a group that's sitting in front of you and then a group that's also at home. During the largest portion of the quarantine, where I had 3 or 4 students in class and 15 on a computer screen, it was trying to find a balance where I wasn't shortchanging the kids that were in front of me while also not shortchanging the kids at home. I'm not robbing the kids sitting in front of me of what I feel is like the benefit of being in a brick and mortar school, which is having the teacher right there in front of you, but also then not robbing the kids who, through no fault of their own, are having to sit at home and do the same assignments. So it was trying to figure out that way of balancing that out, what's best for everybody. And so what we did was I actually kind of stopped in the middle of a unit. We were doing short stories, and we tried 1 week, we tried to do the short story in class and the ones at home doing the short story at home. And that really was very difficult. The comprehension was not quite the same. So what I did was reschedule what I would have normally had at the end of our unit. I moved up to the middle, which was an essay. Luckily, because we had sort of anticipated that this quarantine was going to happen, the very beginning of the year, we just jumped right in and we learned how to write an academic professional essay right at the beginning of the year, which was overwhelming for a lot of the kids. But by that point that they had gone into quarantine, they already knew what I expected. They already knew how to do it. So when we moved that to that time period where they weren't here, a lot of that we were able to meet live every day at the beginning of the hour and go over whatever portion of the essay we were working on. If it was introductions, we covered introductions, and then they could work on that on their own, and then they could submit it digitally. I could make comments, feedback, send it back, and so we were able to stay on task that way and still not feel like I was shortchanging the kids in front of me or shortchanging the kids at home. They were getting the same thing. We just had to be flexible. We had to be a palm tree, we had to be flexible, and we had to just rearrange some things.
The biggest success that I've had in my classroom this year would be just communication with my students. In the past, communicating face-to-face was perfect, but now our kids are starting to use email. They're starting to use private comments. They're starting to use the technology that we've provided for them for the past few years to communicate with me. And I love that. They are more involved. They take the personal out of it and they actually want to get involved. They want to know their assignments, they want to know their grade, and they're not afraid to ask you, whether it's through a private comment, an email, or face-to-face. But now I feel like they're using that so much more than they did in the past, because it's more accessible now. One in particular would be one student who has struggled, who will not ask me in class for help, refuses to, and it's more of a maybe lack of confidence, shyness, a little bit of introvert maybe. But now he emails me. If he has questions, he emails me, and it's about 7 o'clock at night. And he'll email me whatever question he had for that particular day. And that works for us. In the past, I didn't use that method. It wasn't easily accessible. It was for me, but I didn't think it was for the students. And now we have that technology to do so. So I feel like we're getting some of those introvert, shy kids to kind of open up a little bit more, where they have access to talk to you without actually talking to you. And so that's been a great success for me this year. Different for me, but I'd call it a success.
One success that I can really see, and it's just really come about the past couple of weeks with our virtual students. I've got a big group of the virtual students here at FAME, and trying to find the best way to keep them involved and keep them moving and keep them on track. And I found that I drop emails to them each week, just kind of reminding them of what they're supposed to be doing. Through the Odyssey, where little notes to them that way. But I also went through and just kind of set weekly goals of not necessarily even of each class, but goals for, okay, you've got 4 classes this week. In your 5 times you need to log in, you need to get 20 lessons done in order to stay on pace for your quarter. Well, most of them were getting behind, and one of the students, she got behind the first 2 or 3 weeks, but we started really pushing the goals on her and finding out, hey, you need to do this, you need to do this. Now, over the past 3 weeks, she has kind of found her own rhythm in that. She's found the rhythm that if I do 1 lesson in each class every day, then I'm going to stay on pace.
I could probably think of a few successes that we've had this year so far. One of which is, as far as writing goes, we're way ahead of where we should be because we had started an essay early and then moved an essay up. So we've already done 2 major writing assignments that we normally would not have covered at this point until Christmas. So I think that's a success. We're ahead of where we should be. And I think that's cool that we're ahead of the game, even though we've experienced all these setbacks. The second thing is recently I gave my classes some incentive to try to get them to all make really good scores on their vocabulary tests. We were struggling. Those first 2 weeks, the scores were very, very low, and I was thinking, oh my goodness, what's going on and what can we do? So I gave them a little bit of an incentive, told them, we would do this if everybody in the class made 100 on the test. And scores went up dramatically. In fact, that next time we took a test, I think the lowest score I had may have been like in the 70s, where they had been very, very much lower. But I did have one class that every single person in that hour was able to score a perfect score on the vocabulary test that week. And that was a big deal for us. It was very cool.
Our goal is to get everybody on the same page, doing the same thing at the same time. She mentioned organization. You have to be so organized in your Google Classroom. I moved from 4th to 5th this year, and I have learned so much. Every day I'm learning something. So every day these kids are learning something.
Last year, before quarantine, I came to school to teach the students that were in my classroom. And this year I come to school and I'm not sure who's going to be here. But I quickly find out if a student is absent. I usually text their parent, ask if they can log on, if they haven't already, because they kind of know at 8 o'clock to log on if they're absent. And so if the parents will get them logged on, and now it's to teach every student whether they're here or not.
My personal mission or goal, and it may sound trite to some or anything, but I just want to make a difference in these kids' lives. If I can do something to be a positive influence in these kids' lives, that's going to make a difference. If it makes a difference in their grades, great. If it makes a difference in how they choose their future, that's great too. But honestly, that's my answer. I want to make a difference in their lives.
My mission from my classroom is just for my students to enjoy math. And that's a hard mission, and it's a hard task. And every single day, it's a battle. They come in here with doubt, lack of confidence, confusion, whatever it might be mathematically, and they've had it for years. Others are strong, confident, so it's a battle between, but every day I want to make it enjoyable. I want math to come naturally and easy to these students, and I know it doesn't to everyone, but by the end of the year, that's my mission. Daily, make this enjoyable. Make this where they want to be in my room. They want to learn math.
I want to say thank you to our teaching staff and our community for all their hard work, extra hours, dedication. This has been a learning curve for all of us, and you guys have went above and beyond, and I want to say thank you. Teachers, show yourself some grace. Take time for yourself, because you guys are rocking it.
I think that teamwork is the key, and so my job every day is to make sure that I leave this building feeling that my kids were successful today, all 187 of them.